got one that can see.
Where there's thunder, there's lightning. John Nada. I feel like my channel is kind of like an introduction to MGTOW. Sometimes I have some deep insights, and sometimes I have some very surface level. All right, John, we all get it. You know, you're saying something that's been said for the millionth time in the Manosphere. But the main point of this channel is to put things in perspective and to put things into words that the common everyday Joe or the common everyday John Smith can get, right? So I say all that to say this. I've had some interesting things happen in the last week or two, and I feel like they're MGTOW related. But hear me out on this. The first one being is that a girl that I dated a while back, I recently ended up talking to again for some reason or another. We crossed paths or whatever, and she was telling me about some situations that were happening with her family, her parents, namely. To make a long story short, the dad's got Alzheimer's. He's 77. The mom's in her 40s, so she married the dad when she was about 19, and he was in his 50s. And it wasn't until she caught her mom cheating on her dad that she realized her mom was a gold digger. And I remember back when we were dating, somebody that she knew, a friend of hers or somebody at work, she had gotten really upset about him basically saying that her mom was a gold digger. And the fact that it took that realization, the whole mom is cheating on dad thing, to realize your mom is a gold digger. Well, let's just say 19-year-old girl doesn't marry a 55-year-old guy unless he's got some money. And the dude has some money. I mean, he's actually quite wealthy. But, you say all that to say this, like, AWOL all the way. And then in addition to that, when she confronted her mom about it, her mom, basically tried to kill her. I mean, she assaulted her pretty viciously. And it goes back to that whole, nobody's going to mess up the gravy train for me, not even my own kid. I don't know, man. If that's not AWOL, I don't know what is. That the potential is there, that their own mother would behave that way. So then I go from that story to this story where, again, another girl I dated, and this has been several years ago that we dated, and we've kept in touch from time to time. I mean, it's very cursory and all that, and I don't really put a whole lot of stock into it. I don't consider any of these people friends. These are just people I hear from time to time. And I get this text 2 or 3 days ago. Now, this girl in the past has, talked about wanting to get back together and all this kind of stuff. And it hasn't been a recent phenomenon because in recent history, she's been in a relationship with a guy for the past 2 years. But I noticed that whenever she's not in a relationship and, I guess she has time to sit around and think about being single and all that she hits me up. And, again, I don't really keep a whole lot of track of most of these people. Every once in a while, I don't ever initiate the conversations. So I guess the guy broke up with her. And here's my issue with that whole thing. From the story that she told me, you would think that she is the victim in this whole thing. But I don't think that this guy, and basically, long story short, it was a dude at work she worked with. He was interested. She turned him down. He kept being persistent about things. And finally, she's like, look, I can't be friends with you anymore. But see, they had exchanged texts back and forth and this, that, and the other. And, according to her, the texts were taken out of context. And I guess this guy can edit her text to make them say things that she didn't really say. But I guess my whole thing is why are you texting this guy at work back and forth that you're friends with? Now, granted, she said, we're friends and everything, but I just wasn't interested in him beyond that. But I mean, once it came to that level, once you knew the dude was interested, at that point, you can't keep fooling yourself into thinking, oh, we're just friends. Well, of course, we all know why she did that. The attention thing, the ego boost, and all that. Suffice it to say, the dude got upset about it, evidently showed the boyfriend the texts, which I don't know whether they were edited or not. And the boyfriend sent her a picture back of him and the friend flipping her off. And he's done. Which leads me to believe there's more to that story than what she's telling me. For him to throw away, this 2-year relationship and they had been talking about getting engaged and all this stuff. Now, here's the thing. This girl's 25. He's 39. He's got a pretty good he works in a family business, which, he comes from a pretty good family in terms of financially and everything else. And I guess to make a long story short, she claimed this guy, has his anger problems. He threw a key at her. And he called her these names, and he never physically laid hands on her. But I guess in the breakup, he dropped a whole bunch of her belongings on her front lawn and broke her glasses and all this kind of stuff. And so, but to hear her tell it, other than the anger deal, he's just a perfect gentleman in every way, other than the anger deal. Now, I say all this to say, and again, this channel, I feel like sometimes, I might have a really interesting, groundbreaking insight or whatever, but by and large, these are the basics, and it's like anything else. In baseball, you do the basics, you do the fundamentals, and then you graduate and advance onto more advanced things. But you've always got to have the basics as the foundation. So I think it's important to remember the basics, and sometimes it's in stories that the basics are really illustrated very well. I move over to a buddy of mine that I've mentioned here before, and he asked the question, here he is, a decent guy, works hard, pays his own way, does what he's capable of doing given his situation. He works, he's trying to better himself, everything else. But yet it seems like time and time again, women end up with these guys that, are abusive or, are just terrible. They either end up, the guys that they, and the thing is this girl was heartbroken over this dude. And the relationship she had prior to this guy, it was the same deal. And she dated this guy for 5 years. And this dude evidently was abusive as well. And so I used to ask myself this question, and I don't anymore because I know the answer. And it doesn't bother me. It's not a thing where I would want to date this person again or anything like that. But it's like, okay, you stay with a dude that evidently has an anger issue, but otherwise is a great guy for 2 years. Before that, you stay with a guy who really didn't, I didn't even know how she put it, but basically, you really didn't have any good qualities whatsoever, but yes, she stayed with him for 5 years. And in her own words, I was the guy that treated her the best out of everybody she's ever dated. Now, that's not surprising to me because I know back in the day I was a little blue pill mangina. So I'm sure I did do that. And yet we were together, a measly 6, 7, 8 months. And as you can imagine, the relationship that I experienced with her was in no way as beneficial as probably these other two guys have, these other two guys experienced, if you catch my drift on that. And yet I was the guy that treated her the best. And she went through this little phase where she wanted to maybe try to work things out again and get back together again and all this. And it was usually when she was in a single spell. And so there were a few times where I kind of fell for that. It was like, but every time that I tried to make it happen and that's the difference too between me and her, but really what I've seen to be true of just men and women in general, I would try to solve the problem. I would try to work something together for it, for it to work. And she wasn't interested in doing that. So then after a while, I just got sick of hearing it. Just fell on deaf ears and really just realized that this person was just there for them and what they could get out of it and how I could make them feel, and basically building them up but getting nothing back from it, So, I don't know. Again, this isn't a very maybe insightful, thus spake, Zarathustra type podcast, But I don't know. You guys, I'd be interested in hearing thoughts on you. To me, it's hilarious. Like, because my buddy, he didn't get it. He still doesn't understand. I think he understands a lot of it. He's getting there, but just when you look at it from the MGTOW perspective, like you truly see, it's like looking at a blueprint. You understand how it's built. You understand why this is there, why that's designed this way, why that's designed another way. When you understand these concepts, hypergamy, Briffault's law, all this stuff, it puts everything in perspective, and it's like, it's not an anger thing. We all go through an anger phase or period of red pill rage or whatever. But now it's more like, it's a truth that I delight in telling people, though I probably shouldn't, because we all are aware, the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club, but it's such an enormous truth to understand, these things. And as Bill Hicks once said, I delight in telling my brothers the truth, And you have to be careful with it, obviously, but it's just so interesting. It's no different. One of the girls comes from a Colombian background. Another girl comes from a German background. I've got other stories about other girls that are, American background. This, that, or the other, so on and so forth. It doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't. This idea that a foreign woman's going to be different, no. It's the same deal. The minute you bring them over here, the minute you unleash them into the society and they have free reign, doesn't matter if she's Filipino, Thailand. I think I mentioned the half Korean girl I talked to for a while. Makes no difference. AWOL all the way. And once you understand this, then you can save yourself from a lot of issues. Because in the past, I had to make mistakes, and we all have to make mistakes. You're not going to understand, nor are you going to accept a lot of these truths until you make the mistakes yourself and you see for yourself, wow, you won't believe the stove's hot till you touch it. You really won't, because I didn't for the longest time. I just thought maybe I'm meeting the wrong kind of women, or, it wasn't until I had enough experiences and enough bad experiences that you start delving into this. And there's a reason why in the past couple of years, MGTOW has just exploded and grown. It's still very underground, but, more and more people. I can remember when, it was hardly known or talked about at all. But when you understand this stuff, when the truth is revealed to you, it's a very liberating thing, because you don't waste near as much time trying to figure things out. You don't waste near as much time strategizing, coming up with different tactics, and this, that, and the other. You just realize what a tremendous and colossal waste of time all of this has been. And then you move forward, and you know what? It's time to do what I'm really interested in and want to do. Because I've already wasted enough time on relationships and all this other stuff. So I encourage you to continue to study in it, delve into it, and to add on to your own personal philosophy of what MGTOW is. But let me assure you that it's not any different out there. It's not going to take another relationship or another girl, or maybe if I just do this, or maybe if I just get in shape enough, or look at Johnny Depp, look at Elon Musk, look at all these guys. All the money, fame, power, looks in the world, some of these people. And even they can't please a woman. And that's simply because no one ever told us that a woman can never be pleased. And that is the truth that MGTOW has brought to the world. Well, as always, you're free to do as you're told. This has been the Days of Thunder. I am John Nada.